Good evening, everybody. I hope you enjoy this video that you're about to watch. If you would go ahead and smash that subscribe button and follow me, and if you would share it. It's a young man that has a very interesting story of a business that he started from the ground up, basically as a child, and I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did. All right, Jordan, it's good to be with you today. I appreciate the opportunity to come visit with you. Tell me about your business here. What do you do? Tell me about your business and yourself. Just give me a 3-minute tour.
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, I appreciate you coming. I'm flattered somebody want to actually come out here and talk about junk. I started peddling scrap, so to speak, when I was a child, and yeah, I was just amused by the fact that you know, I could make money off people's waste. And back when I was a teenager, you know, I roofed houses and did manual labor for $5 an hour. And then some older gentleman one time gave me a bunch of scrap, and I turned it in for $200 or $300. So needless to say, from that day forward, I was hooked. And so when I got out of the military, I had a degree in education, so I couldn't go to teaching school, or at least apply for a job, till that summer. And this was, I got out of the military in around November, December. So I told my dad that, you know, I didn't want to go back and do manual labor anymore. I wanted to try the scrap business. So that's when I got out in the community, bought a truck, and started dragging in old cars. And that's kind of where I got the odd name, so to speak. It's kind of a non-conventional name for the scrap business, but I'll get into that in a minute. My grandmother gave me that. It's a pretty good story. But anyways, I got a truck. I started dragging up a bunch of cars, and she was nice enough to let me put them behind her property. Well, when I got enough cars, I called in a car crushing crew, and they processed them and hauled them off. And that's kind of when we got started. So as I was getting going, I had to get an LLC. I had to get insurance and do all those things. So the lady at the insurance company said, well, you got to have a name for this business. It's like, name? What do I call this? So I go back to my grandmother, and I told her, I said, we call her Missy. I said, Missy, I got to come up with a name for what I'm doing. And she says, I don't really know what we're going to call it, but if you keep going where you're going, you're going to be in high cotton. So the name stuck. So that's where the name High Cotton came up with. That's where we got the name, which is pretty odd, but it works. It stuck. Then I went off to combat with the military, and was fortunate enough to get this piece of property when I was overseas. My mother found it, and it's suited very well because it used to be a concrete plant. And so we came in and started doing what we were doing and dragging up old cars, and people would show up with scrap. And naturally I wanted to buy it because I could put it in the cars and I'd make more money. And so people would show up with odd and end appliances and stuff, and I'd say, well, I'll give you $5. Oh, no, it's heavier than that. It's heavier than that. It's more money than that. So I bought a scale in the back, and I had one guy working for me, Henry Cunningham. And I said, Henry, when these people show back up, I've got the solution. What's that? I said, well, we won't haggle. We put it on the scale and give the going rate, you know, for this material. And it's transparent. They got the number, and we pay them. Well, that lasted about a week. And the word got out on the street, and lo and behold, material starts flying in here, and we were limited manpower, we were limited equipment, and it was that point in time where I basically had to make the decision. Was I going to do this kind of on the side, or was I going to be a scrap dealer? So I decided to jump on the bus, and so naturally we've been fortunate. We've been real conservative in what we buy. We get a piece at a time. First was the drive-on scales. This is where the customers can bring the material, drive. We get a gross weight, and then we empty the material and we pay them accordingly. And then naturally we got into roll-off containers, and then we got into buying bigger steel. So we had to buy shears to cut the material. We had to buy machines that have magnets on them to pick it up and sort it and separate it. But it's been a good business. The scrap business was really started hundreds of years ago, practically, mostly by Italian immigrants and by Jewish people, because it was just a nitty-gritty, down to the dirt way for somebody aspiring to do something to get out and do it, you know. And it's kind of the American dream business, especially back then for those guys. And it still holds true today. There's still a lot of Italians and Jewish people that are still big into the scrap business. And in the scrap business, 100 years ago, scrap yards would buy furs, and glass, and rags, and all that kind of stuff. But the scrap business your reputation is big in it. You know, it's all weights and measures. You know, so you have to make sure that you pay in the public appropriately on today's market. You have to have accurate weights. You know, you have to treat everybody fair, give them a good, you know, be polite to people, be courteous, and it'll grow. It takes a lot of time and work, and you know, your reputation's everything. You know, if you treat somebody badly, or you don't pay them appropriately for their commodities, then they go out back in the community and say, oh, that's not the place to go. They don't pay fair. They do this, and it just runs rampant. And then all of a sudden, you're the dishonest scrap guy. So we try. That's one of the biggest things we do here is we try to be transparent, be polite, and if there's ever an issue with what we pay, I tell the people, you know, by all means, let's go back and see. Let's do, if we made an error, you know, let's make it right. But you know, the scrap industry, to people that live in rural Alabama, we're looked at or deemed as just junk dealers. But it's actually, the scrap industry is a huge overall business in America. You know, in Mobile you have steel mills that hire hundreds of people, and they make finished product to, you know, to build buildings and structural steel. And then you have big auto shredders, which are $20 million facilities, which where we take a lot of our products to be shredded and separated. They're Mobile, Pensacola, Phoenix City, Birmingham, you know, all over the South. So we're kind of like where the rubber meets the road for all these other people, because we facilitate the steel mills, you know, we facilitate the auto shredders, and it's also good for the environment. You know, scrap in general, it gets rid of the eyesores, you know, the old rusty stuff sitting on the side of the road, the old cars, dilapidated, you know, that look bad in people's yards, and they can get money. Wow,
that's awesome to hear all this about the scrap industry. But tell me some things. How many people you employ here?
We've got about 8 people, a couple part-time people, office personnel, people that drive trucks, people that operate machinery.
How long you been doing it? Total. You said you never did give me a number.
I started, I guess you could say I've been scrapping all my life since I was a child, but we bought our first truck. We were literally like Sanford and Son. We bought our first truck with the intentions of scrapping in 2005. So 15 years. So yeah, time flies when you're having fun. It does.
That's pretty good.
And you've had this place here since you came back from Iraq.
Yeah, and some, you know, and there's a lot of things that go along with the business in general. I mean, as far as we have to stay compliant. There's a lot of rules and regulations about what you can buy, what you got to write a check for. You know, you have to photograph scrap as it comes in. You have to identify the cars. We have to itemize by VIN numbers before we recycle them. And there's a lot of other environmental issues. We have to do our due diligence to see to it that we don't pollute. You know, we have special stations where we drain fluids out of cars and control those fluids, and they get big pump trucks come out and get our waste products. So we have to do our very best to make sure that we're not polluting the ground, and that's a job within itself. Because if you get complacent and you don't respect the property that you're on, then you've got an environmental issue, and that not only affects the property here, but it can affect others. So we try our best to stay on the up and up with that.
Yeah.
But on the business side, we buy aluminum cans, appliances, bicycles, cars. We buy a lot of that from the public, but we also facilitate industry. We put big roll-off containers at machine shops, air conditioning contractors, manufacturing plants, wood yards, any place that has wear and tear parts or scrap, leftovers from making stuff. We facilitate those people with containers, and that's a big aspect of our business is to put these containers out in the public and let these big businesses put their metals in them, and then of course when it's full they get paid. So it works good for them, and we get what we need to make a living, and that's metal. Most of my employees are from Mexi over here, Snowden Road, the majority of them, and they've all been good to me. Well, I mean, we work excellent together. Jerome, which he's at lunch right now, but he's worked here 10 years. He works the office. He answers the phone and pays the money, along with numerous other guys from over there. But naturally, they've gravitated over here, and it's kind of like we're part of the Mexi community.
Right.
You know, everybody in that community either has worked here, is working here, has a relative that works here. So it works out good for them. They don't have to travel very far to go to work, and it's kind of like one big family, you know. Yeah. And it's good too. I have guys that work here that take pride in this place. So with the guys that work here that take pride in working here, like Jerome, for example, and some of the others, you know, if we're off, or it's a Sunday or a holiday weekend, or they cruising by and making sure that, you know, nobody's plundering around, not doing the, you know, and we've got great neighbors. They look after us also. So it's been a blessing, and it's been a way to make a living. It's not really been really easy, but it's been an honest way to make a living.
All right. Thank you so much.